Let's bow our heads. God, today we're thankful that we have access to you through Jesus Christ, and we're thankful that all we have to do is call on your name. We ask you today, Lord God, to be Lord over these proceedings. We invite you, Lord, to have your way. God, your word says in Proverbs 16 that many are the plans in a man's heart, God. There are many plans represented here today. But, Lord, ultimately that verse ends saying that it is you who determines our steps, God. And so, Lord, today I pray that every agenda that is not in line with yours, that it would yield and that it would submit. Lord, I pray that ultimately your way would win because your way is always the best way. Lord, I pray that in this room every heart would be decided on doing what is in line with what you want and on doing what is in line with your purpose and your plan for the city of Amarillo. Lord, from small details to great details, from small matters to great matters, God. Would you be Lord of all, and would you reign in this place and reign in every life? Lord, I pray that at the end of the day there would be unity, Lord, and consensus, Lord, that we all want what you want for this city, Lord. We commit every order of business, every matter of business, Lord God, to you. We ask you to reign again, God. Glorify yourself here, God. Remind us to be still and know that you are God and that you will be exalted in the nations, and that includes Amarillo, Texas. So, Lord, be Lord here in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Margie. Thank you. Would you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right. We'll move next to the public address portion of our agenda, and I'll pass the microphone to our City Secretary, Stephanie Coggins.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks to each of you for participating in today's City Council meeting. Your input and your opinions are important to us, and we are glad you are here to share them. At each posted meeting, we invite our fellow citizens to address City Council regarding posted agenda items. Every speaker has 3 minutes to address the Council. At the end of 2.5 minutes, a warning beep will sound to alert you that you have 30 seconds left to wrap up your thoughts. We ask that you stay within the 3 minutes allotted. Speakers are asked to limit your comments to items on the posted agenda. We do have a public hearing today. If you're here to speak on that public hearing, we would ask that you make your comment either during the public address or during the public hearing, but not both, in order to help us keep accurate records. It's your decision at which time you'd like to speak. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and whether or not you live in Amarillo city limits. Please state if you are speaking for, against, or on your item. And again, thank you for being here today to share your thoughts with us. Our first public speaker is Noah Dawson, and after Mr. Dawson, James Skank will be on deck.
How's it going, y'all? I'm here to speak on 3G and talk about why I support it. I am thankful to some of my friends. I understand where they're coming from. When they have skepticism towards Ukraine because of feelings against military interventionism. As a libertarian, it's wonderful to see that the right has finally taken up that position. But libertarians have never been isolationist. And further, I don't see symbolism as interventionism. As for the criticism that, we shouldn't be, the timer's not on. Sorry to. But I also, I have no serious qualms about symbolism regarding we should only be displaying the American and Texas and city flags and whatnot. We have bigger fish to fry than squabbling over that. And there's also, I'm sure you're aware, Mayor, of a certain Facebook page run by one of your twice former opponent's boyfriends that's posted a made-up quote saying that we're going to be sending tax dollars to Ukraine. enough there to criticize without making things up. I always avoid doing that because there is enough there when there are genuine criticisms to be made. But I mean, at the end of the day, Ukraine, it's a country that's fighting for its democracy, and you note on the beginning of every agenda is the mission of this council is to use democracy to govern the city efficiently and effectively to accomplish the city's mission. Ukraine is a democracy. Russia is a farce of a democracy. Putin's been holding these fake referendums in eastern Ukraine to dress up his invasion legitimacy. Domestic elections in Ukraine really are no better, or in Russia are really no better. Sorry. But we all know that Ukraine is the side that's fighting for democracy. Geopolitics are rarely black and white, but Putin is the bad guy. And in Russia, as I mentioned, elections are not free. I mean, imagine if Putin wanted to build a new arena in downtown Moscow, but voters said no. He'd probably still try and build it anyways. And then if the people tried to petition to stop it, well, that petition would just get thrown out, and then Putin would try and declare that no such petitions could ever be valid. I'm glad our local government isn't like that. I'm glad we have leaders who respect democracy so much they're willing to engage in symbolic gestures and a show of solidarity with Ukraine.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Next up is Mr. Skank, and on deck will be Jeff Guneagle.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Haven't seen y'all for a month. Well, I've seen you a little bit because I've looked at everything. I'm here to speak on 3G also, about flying the Ukraine flag in front of our city facilities. We should note that represents their government, not necessarily their people, even though just like ours represents us. But we're trying to help the people through this sister city thing. This right here shows an allegiance to the 122nd worst corrupt government out of the 180 in the world. It's well known that Ukraine is just as corrupt as Russia, as Nigeria, as Sudan, if you look at the list and you understand what's going on. So to sign up an allegiance with them in any form or fashion by using the flag is wrong. One of the past things that went on with this council and government was to plant a tree with a sister city. That's a suggestion, not a flag in front of our facilities. That's wrong on all levels. Anybody who served, let me tell you, I have a pretty good social presence on Nextdoor and Facebook. You need to go look at it, and you need to see how many people. I mean, it's hundreds. And I just put it up Saturday, Sunday, and there's hundreds of people that have commented no, and hundreds on top of that have agreed with those people. On Facebook also. You need to be in touch with the people, and you need to ask whether or not they're in agreement with this. I got 53 seconds for one other thing. I've always been concerned 2 years ago when you nominated Ms. Powell for Mayor Pro Tem. Okay? I've been looking at that, and I continue to see you recognized in media and everything as Mayor Pro Tem. That's a term that's supposed to be used in your absence, not as a designation for place two. But yet we've done that because in past, Mayor Pro Tems who were ever serving through a 6-month period or whatever was never referred to in the Globe News and on the air as Mayor Pro Tem. So I'm concerned about that misuse. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Skank. Next is Mr. Guneagle, and our last commenter after Mr. Guneagle will be Barbara Burnett.
Jeff McGonigal. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. I've been here about 2.5 years, so my first city council meeting. Oh, yeah. My first city council meeting. I moved here from Charlotte, North Carolina, like I said, about 2.5 years ago. I had a calling to come here. I've been sent here. And I've looked at the city, and I've been in the schools. I've been in healthcare, city, recreation, restaurants, churches, parks. And what I see is a lack of a standard of excellence. There's a standard of mediocrity is what I see. I want to live in an excellent city. I think we all do. We need a standard of excellence for that. It all starts in the schools. If we don't have a standard of excellence in the schools, we don't have a standard of excellence for our citizens. The other day I was at the Transformation Park meeting, and I talked to Jason, and I said, hey, let's make this an excellent project. Let's make this a project where the whole nation says Amarillo did that right because they have a standard of excellence. It's not here. It's not here right now. The transit park can be a standard of excellence for the city where people say, hey, I'm going to Amarillo because they've got a standard of excellence for everything they do. I tell you, I was thinking on the way down here, I was thinking about if I'm from Japan and I'm here and I'm going to start a business, I'm going to go down I-40 and I'm going to see the trash flying everywhere. Is that excellence? No, there's no standard of excellence there. My thing is, again, we have a standard of excellence, and I want that for myself. I might drop dead right here and right now, the end of my life. But hopefully I'll live longer and be able to see that this city that I live in has a standard of excellence for the children. For the children. So when it comes to Ukraine, she said, one of the most corrupt countries in the nation. My brother, or my nephew lives in Sweden. He had to go to Ukraine for a visa deal. And I said, why are you going to Ukraine? They're not only corrupt, they've been killing citizens there for 10 years. Bombing citizens. And we're going to support that? We're going to support that? If we want a standard of excellence, we can't be hanging out with thugs. We can't be hanging out with thugs. We can't represent thugs. And to conclude this, is this the right thing to do? I don't know. Hang this thing. Is it the wrong thing to do? I don't know. But from a standard of excellence, it's not the thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGonigal. And lastly, Barbara Burnett.
I don't think we have a public hearing on it. With regard to what item, Ms. Burnett? Is it 3A? Okay, that item is getting pushed, and actually at this time we don't have it. We're not planning to put it on a future agenda. We're not planning to take action on it today. So, okay.
Okay, and Mayor, we
Yes,
do
ma'am.
have a public hearing on item 3B, I believe it is. No, I'm sorry.
Let's see.
Never mind, that's the wrong one. I'm
Yeah, it's the
sorry.
wrong. Yeah,
I'm
you're right
sorry.
though. There is a. Please remind me when we get to 3B because I'm sure I'll forget that we're doing a public hearing. That was a joke, but
Yeah.
Yes, Brady called me yesterday and told me that they have withdrawn their request to take away our alley. But I don't understand how. The people that made the request are from out of town. Their building is a neighbor to mine. They've not been good landlords. Apparently the council wanted to okay this because they have worked hard to put lipstick on the pig. Mayor, you talked to their representative and said, oh, you can make sure they keep it cleaned up, stuff like this. I want you to know that those pallets that were in the alley weren't moved till the 29th of last month. I don't believe that the property management for there cares or bothers. Their main concern seems to be getting tenants in there and getting their money. I've spoken to the present tenants. they didn't come today because it was withdrawn. But they were intending to come. They're not happy about it. They were never consulted at all. And I think that using the restaurant to carry the water for them when they're the bad guys is not cool. I don't know why it was withdrawn. I'm assuming that the restaurant changed their mind. But I don't like y'all siding against the people here with some out-of-state company or out-of-city company. And, Doctor, you said that that building, that little brown building, was empty. It's not. It's been occupied for years, and even if it was empty, that's no reason to okay them deciding falling off their building and not fixing it. I am glad that it was withdrawn, but I'm not happy with how the council handled it last time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burnett, and that concludes public address.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move. Actually, the city manager needs to make an announcement about a staff change.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We've tried to make a practice to introduce key staff members when they are appointed. And we have the city engineer position as a key position in our capital project development engineering department. Our new city engineer is Jackson Zahara. Jackson, can you stand up? Come on up, and I'm going to talk about you and talk about you for a second. You might not have to say a word. So, in his new role, Jackson brings nearly 20 years of experience to lead our engineering department. The department's responsible for engineering and construction management of public infrastructure. He's going to be responsible for capital projects from many city divisions and departments, as well as regulatory oversight for private development. Jackson was raised in East Bethel, Minnesota, although you can't tell it by his accent. He attended North Dakota State University, so he has, I'm sure, and I haven't ever talked to you about this, but I'm sure you have a very arrogant sense of we always win championships, because I don't know if you've seen Division II football, but they've had the national championship for like 20 years in a row.
Until this past Sunday, yeah.
Oh, I did not bring that up on purpose. I didn't know that. I just assumed they won. Well, that was a very well-timed gut punch, I guess. I apologize. I really didn't. I derailed myself.
Yes.
Jackson worked as an engineer and project manager for 10 years with a private engineering firm before making his home in Amarillo. He started employment with the city in 2013, so he's 10 years almost here in the city of Amarillo, too, and has been with the Capital Projects Development Engineering Department since its creation in 2016, where he held the position of assistant city engineer. Jackson and his wife enjoy many forms of outdoor recreation, and we're glad to have them here in Amarillo and in your role as city engineer. So please help me welcome Jackson to his new role.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jackson, we're glad. Thank you for your service already, 10 years. But what Jared said is true. We are glad to have you in the city of Amarillo and glad to have you in this new position. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 1A. Is there anything in your packet, council, that you needed explanation on right up front? Okay, moving to item 1B, discussing the solid waste update. Mr. City Manager.
All right, Mayor, we've got Donnie Hooper, Director of Public Works, to present the item, hopefully for the last time. Donnie, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. I kind of want to be like Jackson. Those of us that know him around the office, he's a man of few words, but when he speaks, it's pretty profound. I'm just the opposite. I just talk the whole time we're in the office. But anyway, yeah, so here we are. This is our final report, we hope, for this. We started twice-a-week collection yesterday morning. And we got off to a really good start. We finished strongly yesterday as well. Just so you know where we're at as far as positions, when we first presented this as being able to come back to twice-a-week collections, we said we needed 35 solid waste drivers, equipment operators to do residential collections. We have 37 as of right now. So we've added 15 since we started this process. That's our net positive as far as employees are concerned. Yesterday we had 26 drivers that were available, so we were a little bit short yesterday. We had some that were on vacation, some that were on OJI and different things like that, but we were still able to we had 4 open routes. We have 30 routes on the Monday and Thursday routes. We had 4 of those that were open, but with the other drivers we all pitched in to get that completed. The last driver came in last night at 6:30, which is pretty good for us. Most of them were coming in around 5:15. In the afternoon. So we had a really good day yesterday. The routes were 100% completed yesterday, and we got off to a good start today. We had 28 of the 31 routes filled. and we're off and running as that last check. I would tell you that every Tuesday morning, Alan and I meet with all of our superintendents, and one of the things we discuss at our superintendent meeting is wins that we have in each of our divisions. And they're required to bring wins with them, and most of them bring multiple wins. But I started the meeting off with the biggest win was just a collaborative effort it took to do this for me personally, because not only did it take a council, it took a management team, it took our HR department, who, by the way, was at our meeting this morning, and every one of those superintendents that sat in that room somehow, some way pitched in to get this done, whether it was lending an employee, lending a piece of equipment, fleet staying late to make sure that we had the proper amount of trucks. Everybody had something to do with this, so it was all the way around. It was just a great win for all of us. So I wanted to share that with you and just tell you, here we are. We're back to twice-a-week collections. I didn't have a PowerPoint today because I figured I'd make it really brief and just say we're off and running. We're ready to go to work.
Well,
by
Donnie,
the way, if anybody needs anything, I will tell you this. We have 15 new drivers on those routes, so they're a little bit, it's a little bit difficult for them to get used to them, to be real proficient with them. And so the efficiencies may be a little bit down at first. If someone has an issue, they can call us at 378-6813. We'll be glad to come out and take care of anything that they have out there. But they're doing a really good job, and we're monitoring it really closely. So.
That's great. That's basically what I was going to say, is if they have any problems, they can call 378-6813. Yes? Excellent questions from the council. Howard?
I'd like to say I appreciate your leadership in this, and I appreciate not only you, but all the staff under you to make this happen. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll pass that along to them because they deserve the credit for sure. Thank you.
Yeah. We're very pleased, Mr. City Manager, with just the team effort and the time frame that Councilmember Smith set out, 90 days, came very close to meeting that. But we very much appreciate the partnership between the council, between staff, in order to meet that need. And thank you. We're back to twice a week.
Back to twice a week. And if it's okay with you, Mayor, we'll still continue to move the microphone and podium.
We can't do it without you guys. We appreciate you. Okay, item 1C is request future agenda items. Does anyone have anything? Then let's move on and consider the consent agenda. Anything there that needs to come off for further questions or discussion?
Mayor, if you pull G off for further discussion, please, ma'am.
Sure.
Thank you.
With that, removing that, do we have a motion with regard to the items on consent?
Yes, Mayor. I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 2G.
Second.
All of those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That passes with a 5-0 vote. Let's take up item 2G. Mr. City Manager?
All right, Mayor, we're going to bring up Director of Community Development, Jason Riddlesberger, to walk us through the item and answer any questions council might have.
Council, while Jason's coming up, I'll call to your attention that the city secretary is handing you the ordinances with regard to items on our consent portion of the agenda. Yeah, the non-consent. Did I say consent? Sorry, the non-consent portion of our agenda. Okay. Mr. Riddlesberger.
Hi. So this is a piece of property located at 1500 Southwest 6th. It is a small corner of the lot that we are wanting to put Transformation Park, the outdoor shelter portion of it. So this is a contract between us and the potential seller to see how that goes.
Mr. Skank, it is if you just want to raise your hand, then I'll know that means you can't hear. If you don't mind adjusting the microphone, Jason,
sure
that would be helpful.
On? Yeah.
Is it on?
Hello. Test.
Yeah, I think we hear that it's on. Yeah.
All right. So
okay,
yes,
thank you.
This is a piece of property located at 1500 Southwest 6th. It is in the corner of a large lot that we are wanting to put Transformation Park, the outdoor shelter, and this is the offer for that piece of property.
Questions from the council? Mr. Stanley?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So, Mr. Riddlesberger, thank you so much for coming up. And the long and short of it is this piece of property down here on the far right-hand, bottom corner. do you have an overlay, or could you describe to me the overlay of the site plan for everything that's going on here, and what will go in place of that building?
So to begin with, we will actually take that property down, and then we're going to square off that entire. So you see the purple is around both lots. So that's Transit on the left and Transformation Park on the right. The Transformation Park portion where the building is, right now we're kind of looking at a plan that has that as an exit. So actually what we're looking at is that we'll have some roll-offs that will be right there, so the solid waste will be able to get in there and get those real easily from 6th Street. So that's what we're looking at in that corner.
Was there ever a site plan or anything designed that didn't have that piece of property included in it?
Nothing that was put together as far as an actual plan. It was just, we just knew that at that point that we were actually sectioning it off, that we did not own that property. So we just put lines on the map. So
okay.
Nothing with an actual plan on top of that.
Okay. And so in your opinion, you need that piece of property there. You do not have enough square footage or acreage there to do what you need to do without purchasing that additional piece of property.
Definitely, that piece of property is going to be very vital to what that property is doing, yes.
So it'll make it better.
Much better. Much better for access is also for fire department and everybody to be able to get through there. And again, for solid waste to be able to get in there and get the dumpsters and that kind of thing. So that's going to be a very, very key piece of property.
Okay. Yeah, my issue is I definitely don't have anything to do with the cost or the value of that piece of property, nor do I get to entertain any of those negotiations. But in the way of it being a need and something that is money well spent, I'm just clarifying that we didn't have anything out there that would have functioned around that it is something that you need, and that it does benefit the overall project. So I appreciate you speaking on it and give me a little bit extra info.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else have questions for Mr. Riddlesberger? Okay, thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion with regard to item 2G.
Mayor, I move to approve item 2G on the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of this property at 1500 Southwest 6th. Is there any discussion or questions about that motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. The item passes with a 5-0 vote. Moving into our non-consent portion of the agenda, as we mentioned during public address, item 3A, the request has been withdrawn, so we're going to pass on that item and start with item 3B, which is a public hearing and consideration of ordinance number 8038. Mr. City Manager?
All right, Mayor, thank you. We've got Brady Kendricks, Planner 2, to come and present the item, answer any questions council has. Brady, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This item is to consider rezoning of a 5.35 acre tract of unplatted land to change from agricultural district to moderate density district, and also a 3.35 acre tract of unplatted land to change from agricultural district to a general retail district in the vicinity of Georgia Street and Southwest 58th Avenue. And the applicant is Shay Shaddle for Yano Construction Company, LLC. And the applicant is requesting the change in zoning to develop the tract with general retail land uses along Georgia Street and a proposed townhome development in the area proposed for moderate density interior to the section. Adjacent zoning is a residential district 2 and general retail district to the north, residential district 1 to the south, residential district 2 and residential district 3 to the east, and general retail district to the west. Adjacent land uses are single-family detached homes and a restaurant to the north, single-family detached homes to the south and east, and a public charter school and undeveloped land to the west. Regarding the future land use and character map, the applicant's overall tract is in the general commercial and the parks and recreation category. The area proposed for retail activities is designated as general commercial and parks and recreation, and the entirety of the moderate density area is in that parks and recreation category. The Planning Commission believe that an opportunity to allow appropriate infill development is present, and that a deviation from the parks and recreation category on the future land use map is warranted, as this category was likely assigned as a placeholder due to the fact that the majority of this area is located within a 100-year flood boundary and was viewed as undevelopable at the time of the designation. The other designation within the tract is general commercial, and that area is proposed for general retail and conforms with the map. The Planning Commission found that the request does conform with the neighborhood unit concept, given the proximity to the section line intersection, and also the needed transition and zoning being provided by this request. Notices were sent as required by state law, and we did receive one call in the form of a general inquiry into the request. Considering the just mentioned, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval with a unanimous 6-0 vote. And on the screen now is the proposed townhome development in the area that is proposed for a moderate density district.
Any questions for Brady, council? Thank you, Brady. Thank you. At this time, we'll open a public hearing on item 3B, and anyone who wishes to speak for, on, or against the consideration of ordinance number 8038 may have 3 minutes to do so. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak on item 3G? Mr. Dawson?
Right, this item was first considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission on December 5th of last year. It's now been 36 days since then. If this patches, which I hope it does, and it passes with a second final reading 2 weeks from now, it will have taken 50 days for this council to have given a private property owner permission to use their property as they wish, since it was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Well, the fact that Christmas and New Year's have happened between the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and this meeting partially explains the issue. It doesn't wholly explain it. Going back to basically before the summer 2015, the most common time that it took to go from the end or from the final vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission to the second and final reading at City Council was 15 days. This one is taking 50. And this is not an outlier. Since the beginning of 2021, the most common time it has taken has been 36 days. So Prop C, the fact that the meeting frequency is reduced, it partially explains it, but that should only explain 1 week of an increase. This is an increase of 3 weeks. Now, when I last brought up this issue, Mr. Sauer saw fit to try and take some of my comments out of context and vain attempt to insult my intelligence. I'm hoping that this council will actually try and recognize this issue and try and fix this issue instead of continuing to make such snide remarks. I don't have a whole lot of hope for that, so hopefully in May when we get a new city council, they'll at least be able to think through and see that this is an issue and work to fix the issue instead of attacking people who are bringing issues up.
Just to clarify for the record, Mr. Dawson, were you speaking for, on, or against item 3B?
I'm speaking for.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak with regard to item 3B? Thank you. At that, we'll close our public hearing and entertain a motion on this item.
Yes, Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance number 8038, rezoning a 5.35-acre tract of unplatted land to change from agricultural district to moderate density district, and a 3.35-acre tract of unplatted land to change from agricultural district to general retail district, all in Section 138, Block 2, AB&M Survey, Randall County, Texas, plus 1/2 of all bounding streets, alleys, and public ways in the vicinity of Georgia Street and Southwest 58th Avenue.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 8038. Any discussion or questions about that motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. That passes with a 5-0 vote. Item 3C is consideration of ordinance number 8039. Mr. City Manager.
All right, Mayor, we've got Chief Financial Officer, Assistant City Manager Laura Storrs to present the item and introduce our guest. So, Laura? and she'll be handling the next three items, C, D, and E.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. As Jared mentioned, we are here to go over the next three items. Before we do, I want to just confirm that everybody got copies of an ordinance for ordinance number 8039, 8040, and 8041. They should be fairly thick sitting there at your spots. I think Stephanie just passed those out.
Yes.
Appreciate your patience. We sold the debt this morning, and if you all approve them, it will authorize it. And so we were putting the final numbers in the ordinance up until probably 15, 20 minutes ago. So thank you for your patience on that. I've got Stephen Adams with Specialized Public Finance here, on this end, and we also have Bob Dransfield with Norton Rose and Fulbright, our bond counsel, that is here, that both are here to answer any questions. Stephen's going to go over a couple of presentations. Before we start, I wanted to remind council and let our citizens know that on these debt issuances, the first one is related to drainage revenue bonds. We put a rate increase into effect October 1st of 2022, went through the budget process. Council authorized a rate increase to support this debt. So that rate is already in effect and being collected to pay for this debt if it is approved. The next one is for water and sewer revenue bonds. Same there. There was a rate increase that went into effect October 1st of 2022 that was authorized through the budget process by City Council. And so those rates are already in effect to support the debt on on ordinance number 8040. And then finally, on ordinance number 8041, related to the combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation. That is a two-part one that we are issuing debt to cover the landfill cell 10 development. That's the larger portion of it. City Council authorized a rate increase that went into effect October 1st of 2022 as well through the budget process to support that debt issuance as well. So that is in place. The other two pieces of the certificates of obligation are for Colonies PID park amenities and Heritage Hills PID park amenities, and both of those had assessments that went into effect October 1st of 2022 for those residential neighborhood members that pay to support this outstanding debt issuance as long as it's approved as well. So with that, if there's questions, I will be available to answer, and I'll hand it over to Stephen Adams now.
Thank you. And Stephen Adams here. Good afternoon, everybody. We are starting with the drainage utility system revenue bonds, and we have a presentation. And as Laura mentioned, we sold these this morning. On these particular ones, we took bids at 10 a.m. this morning, and we received 7 bids. If you could go to the first page, please. The winning firm was Fidelity Capital Markets, and they submitted a bid with a true interest cost of 3.48%. So the bonds have a $5 million project fund, and as Laura mentioned, all the rates are in place from the last budget cycle. The expected debt service is about $360,000 per year. The final maturity is 2042.
Stephen, can you pull the microphone just a little bit closer, please?
I've got this right here. I got it.
No, can you pull the microphone just a little closer?
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Hang on, we've got I think I got our presentations out of order. There we go. That looks like drainage. Stephanie, go back.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, will you go to the next page, Stephanie? Okay,
one more. Do I control this? Yes. Okay, there it is. Okay, so these are the 7 bids that we received. So, you know, we like it when we get a lot of bids. The spread between the high and the low was 30 basis points. And you can see the bidders there are all pretty well-known financial companies from around the nation. This, on the top line, is the red bar. That is your revenues that come in from your drainage fees. The green is your existing debt, and then the blue bar is this debt. So you can see you have significant coverage over the debt service, and all that coverage is used for ongoing capital projects that are paid for from the drainage revenue fees. You can see here, finally, the debt service, which starts out about $280,000 a year. It's structured around the existing debt, so it increases to about $415,000 after the existing debt is repaid. And there is $5 million to the construction funds. The winning bidder did bid it with a premium, so they actually pay the city money so they can get a higher coupon rate. So we just sell less debt because we only need $5 million for the project fund. And one other thing, just to show you, this is a history of tax-exempt interest rates. It goes back to the 1960s, but you can see that it's come down, and there's that little trough in 2020. It went up a little bit. That red line is where we are now, so it's actually come down here in the last couple of months, and basically these rates move with expectations of future inflation. And so as those expectations come down, as the Fed is raising the interest rate, the long-term interest rates come down along with that. So that's good. They're a little lower than they were just a few months ago. Finally, we, Specialized Public Finance, do recommend that the City of Amarillo award the $4,675,000 Drainage Utility System Revenue Bond, Series 2023, to Fidelity Capital Markets. Mayor?
Any questions for Stephen with regard to item 3C, Ordinance 8039? Okay, thank you, Stephen. Let's just move forward, though, and do the presentations on 8040 and 8041 too, please.
Very good. So the next presentation will be for the water and sewer revenue bonds. All right, sounds good.
While she's doing that, can you tell me the interest rate came down? How much has it come down in over, like, let's say 6 months?
I would say, just off the top of my head, probably 20 or 30 basis points, meaning we probably would have been, instead of in the 340 or 350 range, we probably would have been closer to 4%.
Okay. And what type of rate is that, Stephen? Not just a general construction rate, but...
No, that is a rate for a 20-year tax-exempt municipal bond. So it's different.
A really small slice categorically type of debt.
Correct.
Okay,
thank you. Correct.
So for those types of bonds, do you have a projection? Are they trending and should continue to go down, or do you know?
Well, I mean, I would say this. First of all, I can't project interest rates.
Yes, sir.
But my hope is that as the Federal Reserve, if they can slow inflation down, that will bring the long-term interest rate down. But you just really never know. There's so many market dynamics that go on. It's demand for bonds, for example. Right now, as you'll see, we have a lot of demand, and I'll show you that in a minute. We got 14 bids for the water and sewer bonds.
Okay, thank you, sir.
For example, yes. Okay, so for the water and sewer bonds, $46,500,000 to the project fund. We took bids at 9:30 this morning. Just by the way, we have to take the bids the same day. I know it's awkward. We can't give you all this information in advance. The winning bidders won't hold their bids more than a day or so. So we have to do everything in the morning to take the bids and then bring them to the city council this afternoon. You can maybe do a day ahead, but that's really about it. So we took these bids this morning. We got 14 bids for the water and sewer revenue bonds, larger bond issue, so there's more demand for it. That's the buyers have to do a certain amount of credit work, and they just don't do it on small bond issues, the big firms. So a lot of them will only bid on larger bond issues. TD Securities was the winning bidder with a true interest cost of 3.48%, and the approximate average annual debt service is $3.38 million per year, and these mature in 2043, and if you approve this, they will close on February the 16th. Here are the 14 winning bidders. This was a little tighter from the high to the low because it's a larger issue, so it's got a more liquid market. But TD Securities, which many of you probably know its predecessor is TD Ameritrade, was the winning bidder, so a big firm. And again, you can see a lot of large financial institutions from all over the nation participated in this bid, so we're really happy to get that many bids. So again, we're talking about a lot of demand for these bonds right now. This is the water and sewer coverage, if you will. The red line is the net revenues. So that's revenues of the water and utility system after operating expenses. So after operating expenses, we can then pay debt service. The green is the existing Amarillo locally issued debt, including some COs that we issued for the Water and Sewer Fund to the Texas Water Development Board. And then the gray is the City of Amarillo's portion of CRMWA debt, which is Canadian River Municipal Water Authority. They're the ones that own Lake Meredith, for example, and a lot of other water rights. And then the blue is the debt service on these bonds. So again, we have significant coverage, which is used for ongoing capital projects that are paid with cash.
Questions about that? Okay, thank you.
And here's the debt service associated with the existing bonds. And you can see it's about $3.85 million a year after the first couple of years where we have some existing debt paying off. So the total issue is $42,920,000. And we received an additional net premium of $3,756,000. And that's so the winning bidder could receive those 4% and 5% coupons, which are higher than the true interest cost of 3.48. So they have to, in essence, prepay us some of that interest. And so we lowered the bond size because we didn't need that much money. So it is actually less than the deposit to the project fund. And for this, we do recommend that the City of Amarillo award the $42,920,000 Waterworks and Sewer System Revenue Bonds New Series 2023 to TD Securities. And then, Mayor, the last one is for the Certificates of Obligation. Unless anybody has any questions on the water and sewer.
I just wanted to ask if we had any, maybe for Mr. Cedar-John, CIP priorities that were tagged for this $46.5 million already, and if so, what those are. Just the main ones, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I anticipated that would be one of the questions, and I made myself a list. So the bulk of, or one of the bigger items, one of the biggest items in that list is, of course, the Northeast Interceptor. Mm-hmm. That amount being in that about $26 million range just for that singular project. And then the kind of combination of other projects. We're focusing on both of our plants, both of the wastewater plants, having some significant maintenance and upgrade projects, including some primary clarifiers and expansion of our sludge injection basin and other items focusing on both of those plants. We're focusing on a main transmission line from our bottom street pump station, which is kind of the middle pump station in town, and this is the main transmission line in and out of that water station. And then about $3.5 million of just water main replacement projects. This would be mainly maintenance type projects, but rehab of the existing water transmission system that delivers to each and every one of our houses. And those are the general focuses of the dollars.
And all of those things are on our existing CIP plan as essentially priorities. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, I did forget the Arroyo line. Yes, I apologize, Floyd. Thank you. I had one of the other one that is our Arroyo line. You've heard us say that before. It's a wastewater line that's adjacent to Arroyo Drive. It is a key implementation or key change to address odor issues that we have in the north side of Amarillo. It's basically an outfall line headed through that draw that goes into Thompson Park. And we've got a strategic plan over multiple projects to address that issue, and this is a key component of that plan.
That will improve that smell that's being offloaded into those residential neighborhoods, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Floyd. Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, on to the combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation. I think Laura went over the projects earlier. $6.3 million for landfill improvements, $3 million for Colonia's PID, and then $1.25 million for Heritage Hills PID. So for this one, we received 10 bids. The winning bid is FHN Financial Capital Markets, and the true interest cost on this is 3.498%. The approximate debt service is $750,000 a year, and it matures in 2043, and we mathematically have that separated into 3 different components so that when you budget those payments, you have payments down to the penny for everybody's independent fair share of those. Thank you. You can see the 10 bids. Again, pretty tight, 10 basis points between, or 0.1% between the winning bid and the last place bid. So they were really pretty close again, and a number of bids. So we're really happy to receive those bids. And then you can see the debt service of $750,000 per year. Again, we received a premium. So we had a smaller bond issue size of $9,825,000 to fund a little over $10 million in projects. And then the next page is the 3 components: the solid waste revenue component, the Colonia's PID component, and then the Heritage Hills PID component. And the city's share of the solid waste is about $450,000 per year of the total debt service. And then finally, on this one, we do recommend that the city award the $9,825,000 combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation Series 2023 to FHN Financial Capital Markets, Inc. Mayor?
Any questions about that last presentation? Okay. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Okay, Council, with those 3 items, let's go back and consider item 3C, which is ordinance number 8039, and that is the issuance related to drainage utility system revenue bonds. Do we have a motion with regard to item 3C?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I move to adopt ordinance number 8039, authorizing the issuance of City of Amarillo, Texas drainage utility system revenue bonds, Series 2023, to Fidelity Capital Markets, prescribing the forms, terms, and provisions of said bonds, pledging the next revenues of the city's drainage utility system to the payment of the principal and interest on said bonds, enacting provisions incident and related to the issuance, payment, security, sale, and delivery of said bonds, including the approval and execution of a paying agent register agreement and the approval and distribution of an official statement pertaining thereto, and providing an effective date.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 8039. Any discussion or questions about that motion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. That passes with a 5-0 vote. Consideration of ordinance number 8040. Do we have a motion with regard to that item?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I move to adopt ordinance number 8040, authorizing the issuance of City of Amarillo, Texas waterworks and sewer system revenue bonds, new Series 2023, to TD Securities, formerly TD Ameritrade, prescribing the forms, terms and provisions of said bonds, pledging the net revenues of the city's waterworks and sewer system to the payment of the principal of an interest on said bonds, enacting provisions incident and related to the issuance, payment, security, sale, and delivery of said bonds, including the approval and execution of a paying agent register agreement and the approval and distribution of an official statement pertaining thereto, and providing an effective date.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 8040. Any questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. That passes with a 5-0 vote.
Mayor,
Yes?
can I get a confirmation of who the second was on that one?
Okay, Dr. Sauer. I think we had two people at one time, but I'll just call it with Dr. Sauer. Thanks, Stephanie. And then ordinance number 8041, do we have a motion with regard to that item?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I move to adopt ordinance number 8041, authorizing the issuance of City of Amarillo, Texas, combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation, Series 2023, to FHN Financial Capital Markets, providing for the payment of said certificates of obligation by the levy of an ad valorem tax upon all taxable property within the city and a limited pledge of the city's waterworks and sewer system, specifying the terms and conditions of such certificates of obligation, resolving other matters incident and relating to the issuance, payment, security, sale, and delivery of said certificates of obligation, including the approval and execution of a paying agent register agreement and the approval and distribution of an official statement, and providing an effective date.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by the Mayor Pro Tem and a second by Dr. Sauer. I'll get back to saying that. Any discussion or questions about the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. That passes with a 5-0 vote. Item 3F is consideration of resolution number 0110232. Mr. City Manager.
All right, Mayor, we've got Cody Balzan. He is our Economic Development Specialist here to present, and also Emily Kohler, our Assistant Director of Planning, to introduce the item. But this is going to be a really neat item to talk about economic development opportunities and development opportunities in general in certain parts of town. Emily, take it away.
Thank you. Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm just going to give a short introduction, and then I'll turn it over to Cody. As you know, all of our neighborhood plans recommend economic incentives to support both entrepreneurs and to redevelop the neighborhoods, improve housing conditions, and the commercial structures. We identified this program several years ago as a good option for Amarillo, but it has taken us a while to get to the finish line with it. We were in front of council for the first time in December of 2022. Not coincidentally, that's when we hired Cody Balzan as our economic development specialist. So we're excited to take this step forward today with a program that we think will begin to address the conditions more universally in our neighborhood plan areas. So I'll let Cody present the final version of the program. He really is our go-to person for this, and he's done a really great job of taking this from idea to reality.
Thank you all. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. It's actually exciting finally being up here with this program. It has been a year since we've been up here. It's been a year since I've been working on this. I'll try to make this a little short. This program is very extensive, but we'll try to make it a little bit more concise and just more to the point for you. So this item is considered a resolution that would establish 5 neighborhood empowerment zones. It also adopts the policies and development guidelines that are associated with those 5 neighborhood empowerment zones. So what is a neighborhood empowerment zone? It is allowed for municipalities by Chapter 378 of the Local Government Code, and this is basically a incentive. We're utilizing this to try to incentivize private investment in areas that have seen impaired economic growth. Now, this is actually also defined by Chapter 312 of the tax code, similar requirements as a reinvestment zone establishment that y'all have seen before. And so basically, City Council is able to establish these if they determine that the creation of this program will do one of these four things. The creation of affordable housing, increase economic development in the zone, increase the quality of social services, education, or public services or public safety in the zone, or the rehabilitation of affordable housing in the zone. So what we're looking at, the overview of the incentives that we have basically come up with that we believe will work for this program here. So projects that meet the policy standards and development guidelines that we have established or we are establishing will receive NEZ certification. With NEZ certification, this allows a project to receive development fee waivers. On the right side there, you'll see this is a short little list of development fee waivers that this program would look at waiving. This is not a complete list. The complete list is in the policy document. But back to it, projects that are also looking at investing at least 20% of the most current PRAD improvements value that's associated with that property would be eligible to seek municipal property tax abatement on the increase caused by the project. And this is for 5 or 10 years. That depends on whether it is a new construction or rehabilitation. And then also sales tax rebates of a 0.5% for 5 years. Now, kind of going back, the development guidelines, this being an incentive program does allow us to set up design standards that projects that submit have to follow. This is how we try to get the type of investment that we need in those neighborhoods. And these are written with feedback from stakeholders and specifically our neighborhood associations that 4 of these zones sit over the top of. So kind of going back over our schedule and our outreach on it, on the right side of our slide there is just a short list of some of our stakeholders that we reached out to try to get feedback from. Like Emily had said, we had this item in front of y'all in December of 2021. That's when we were trying to seek direction on whether or not we thought this program would be a good idea and whether or not to move forward on its creation. Now, from February to March, we had stakeholder meetings. This was with all of these stakeholders on the right side and even more. From March to August, we started having internal meetings with departments to see how this would affect other departments. And then we also started drafting initial program. So September to October, we presented these drafts to the stakeholders, got their feedback. So October through November, we incorporated that feedback. And then actually December last month, we finalized the documents, had legal review, which brings us to today, which is y'all's consideration of this item. So as we move forward, though, we don't want to just drop off the program and have it. We want to continue the outreach. We're going to look at setting up public information meetings with the neighborhood associations. So at some of these neighborhood associations, when they have just public meetings, we will like to attend one of those, present this program there as well. And then we need to look at also collecting program data so we can actually analyze how well this program's doing, how much money we're waiving, all that type of stuff. And then we'll be looking at reevaluating this program in 5 years. This would be December of 2027 is when we would look at being back to reevaluate that. So this is a map of our 5 zones. This is 4 of the zones are our neighborhood empower, 4 of the zones are our neighborhood plan areas, and then our 5th zone is downtown. Now, being downtown, we already have some economic development tools that we utilize downtown. So the downtown NEZ would be strictly for residential only, and it would only be for fee waivers. So whenever we were doing the analysis on this, we wanted to see what would be possible potential loss in fee revenues. So this is a list of what we believe would be the major development fees that would be waived, what we would see mostly coming through, and also a average percentage of the cases that are in the NEZ zones compared to the city as a whole. And we came up with, if we continue as we were, we're looking at just less than $65,000 in fees per year. So the next two slides are what we've been working with communications with. This is kind of our outreach once the program is adopted. I believe you'll have a copy of it in front of y'all. The first page is more of just trying to get your attention. Are you looking at doing one of these things? If so, we're interested in maybe working with you and helping you save money. The second or backside of it is actually kind of a case studies examples. So whether we're looking at just rehabbing an existing home, the construction of a new home, whether we're looking at commercial properties, and how you can utilize this program to basically get the best bang for your buck out of it and the time spent on the review for the program. So again, this is a very intensive documents and stuff. If you'll have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I tried to condense this down a little bit.
Thank you, Cody. Any questions from council?
Yes, Mayor, if I could.
Stanley?
Yeah, I guess I take a little heat from my Dairy Queen constituents, on AEDC and a lot of our incentive programs. And so this one here is truly different in the way of it is the little guy. And so a lot of times it looks like we incentivize, a big company, a big business, somebody that is moving from out of town. And we have all of these things that we're willing to somewhat give away to our friends or big business or whoever. And the big critique that I get is, well, when do I get one of those? When's my coffee shop going to get something? Or I pay sales taxes too, how come I don't get a deal? Well, this is a revitalization effort. And so what we're trying to do is strategically target areas in our city that's good for all of us to have areas in our city that are revitalized. We don't want any part of our city dying and becoming more crime-ridden and laden with issues. And so it's always a critique to the city for not doing enough for the little guy. And so, I own small business and I'm small business minded. And something like this goes right in line with what we really are trying to do. And that's not pick winners and losers. That's offer an incentive that says, hey, we understand there may be some problems for you to overcome that you don't have in maybe a newer neighborhood. Maybe you've got a developer that's already going to figure all this stuff out. You're going to have to go through platting, permitting, all sorts of things, right? Here's how we can help you. So I just want to say thank you to you guys for working for it. And then, man, I couldn't be happier with what you guys are trying to do.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I know Councilmember Powell has put a lot of input into this project. I support it 100%. Part of the why I think it's important is because we've done so much work incentivizing jobs and economic growth in our city. We have more than 4,000 jobs in AEDC projects that we've approved in the last 15 months. And so we need to make sure that as those jobs come to town, we have people to work them and those people have a place to live. And so it's not going to be one single thing that we do that makes our housing market stronger and that increases our housing supply, but it's going to be a layered approach. And if we can layer in housing development in these neighborhoods where we want to see redevelopment, even better. And so I think it's a great program. I think it's one that we can start it off, see what's working, see where we can grow it. But I agree, many of us on council we've been all the way through these 4 neighborhood plans and have supported them. And this is a great extension of supporting the work that those neighborhood associations are on the ground doing in their own neighborhoods. So I love seeing the city come alongside and work with citizens who want to make their neighborhoods better. And this program, I think, will absolutely do that. So thank you guys for all of the time. I appreciated the timeline that was in your presentation too, just so that people can have a scope of, hey, this wasn't an idea that was just hatched yesterday. It takes a lot of time to move these things across the finish line, a lot of public engagement. And I know some of the people that have been involved in that have been learning through our public engagement and innovation team how to do that better. So appreciate all the time and effort that y'all spent on that too. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Cody.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion with regard to neighborhood empowerment zones and resolution number 01-10232?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I move to adopt resolution number 01-10-23-2, designating certain areas as a neighborhood empowerment zones and adopting guidelines and criteria within neighborhood empowerment zones pursuant to the Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 378, establishing the boundaries thereof and other matters relating thereto, providing a savings clause, providing a severance clause, and an effective date.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Powell and a second by Councilman Sauer. Any questions or discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes with the 5-0 vote. Can't wait to see it. Bring us a report, okay? Okay. Item 3G is consideration of resolution number 01-1023-3. And Councilmember Howard Smith has the floor for this one. Howard?
Thank you. At the last meeting, we decided to adopt a sister city. We did on a 4-1 vote. The city is Dnipro, Ukraine. I came up with an idea because almost no one knows that we picked a sister city. And I don't think people will. We had another sister city in Mexico, I'm told. But my initial thought was that if we fly the Ukraine flag periodically before City Hall or before the Civic Center, that would bring attention, and people could ask, why are we flying that flag? They may not know what flag it is. But that would be an opportunity to tell people that we have a sister city, and they could support it. They could support it locally if they choose to. There's a bakery here that sells baked goods, and a lot of the money goes to Ukraine to help that. So that was my initial thought, and that's still my thought. I served in the U.S. Navy back in the 60s. And shortly before my time, Russia was trying to put missiles in Cuba. President Kennedy stood up to Russia at that time and got those missiles removed. They stopped that. We have a country, Russia, now attacking Ukraine, and I heard what people said, that Ukraine is not good. Well, I haven't heard that. Our country supports Ukraine, not only Democrats, but Republicans. We've sent money to help them. We're not sending soldiers, but we're providing weapons and educating them how to use those weapons. So Ukraine was, in my opinion, not doing anything wrong. They had a guy that was a comedian that was elected president. He hadn't heard any jokes from him lately. He's turned serious, and he's giving direction to Ukraine. Russia thought they would finish their battle in 30 days, I understand. But here we are, almost a year. So I think it would be good to fly the flag once a week, average of once a week, and in support of the sister city.
And that's what the resolution is about.
Yes.
Okay. Comments, discussion? Mr. Stanley?
Yes, ma'am. So with an exclamation point on my respect for Councilmember Howard Smith, his years of service, not only to his community, but to the military and everything that he was willing to fight and die for, that I personally did not sign up to go and do. So that being said, Councilmember Smith, when you were on a naval vessel and you encountered another naval vessel of another sovereign nation, you never would have tipped your flag to them first. That other nation would have recognized that you're the supreme or superior military. They would have tipped their flag to you in respect and honor, and you would have been able to do the same. And that is, I think, what your heart is going for in the way of solidarity. If I'm speaking out of turn, correct me, but you said you want to bring attention to our sister city. There are many, many ways that we can do this, and I'm not against any of them, except for flying a different nation's flag in front of our publicly funded taxpayer buildings. And so artifacts, symbols. This goes back to a month ago, Mayor, when I asked for the potential of having a citizen committee that could help, come up with some criteria, maybe take care of some of these things. We don't even have our Ukrainian citizens involved in this conversation that I know of. So I'm sitting here in a place of, though your heart may be in the right place, I don't know that this act is in the total right place or in perhaps the best place for what we could practice here. So would council have a conversation with me here today about what can we do to accomplish what you want to accomplish? What can we do to promote our sister city, still help the Ukrainian bakery, Tatiana and her medical supplies that she's trying to get back and forth, everything else that's good that helps those people without putting ourselves in harm's way and potentially offending some of those other military men that may not feel any differently than I feel about it.
Men and women?
Men and women, yes, ma'am.
What's the potential harm do you see, because you said without putting ourselves in harm's way, just specify your thinking on that for us, if you don't mind.
So I believe that where we started here was that we just wanted to exchange art and culture and that we were just being sister cities. We have quickly escalated this all the way to a foreign relations topic. And we are going to take a stand, and symbols matter. So I don't want for one second to discount the flag that's behind me and the men and women that have fought bravely for it and some that have given their lives. And so for us to assume that we could raise another flag over one of our public buildings, I think is a mistake, and that puts us in harm's way. And here's how it puts us in harm's way. It's national pride. It's the risk of looking or appearing un-American, unpatriotic. So I'm totally biased. I love America. I love my country. I love each and every one of my citizens in this community. That's why I'm here. I wouldn't give up my time, energy, and effort to be here if I didn't love my country. And so why fly another flag? What's the benefit? If I'm trying to bring attention, I assure you I can find better ways to do it than this.
I guess the first question I want to ask on that is, it appears to me there would never be a flag that would fly higher than either the state of Texas or the flag of the United States of America, which means that if we were to fly a Ukrainian flag, it would always be in deference to, number one, the state of Texas and also the United States of America. Is that not true?
Mr. City Manager, would it fly at the same level as another sovereign country?
Flag etiquette is what we guide. Another nation would fly at the same level as the U.S. flag, and it also flies at the same level as the state of Texas flag. State of Texas flag being the only state flag that gets to fly at the same level as the U.S. flag.
In place of our city flag? Is that what you're asking for, Mr. Smith?
Yes. It'd be where we have 3 poles.
So not taking down our United States flag?
No. It would be up in the Texas flag instead of the city flag. it'll be the Ukrainian flag.
Do you have any response to what Mr. Stanley is saying about this being an issue of patriotism?
Well, I don't, in due respect to what he said, I don't agree with it. I don't think it's putting us in harm. I think it just gives respect to our sister city. And we're kind of in people have accused Ukraine of being not good, but that's a subject to address to the National Congress. Democrats and Republicans overwhelmingly have supported, given a lot of money to support them. If this passes, it can be ended at any time by the council.
I do agree. I mean, millions of taxpayer dollars are already going to support Ukraine. So from an issue of patriotism, it feels like, well, I'm already supporting that.
Billions.
I just don't see how showing solidarity by flying their flag once a week in place of our city flag, I think that is an act of patriotism that further supports what our nation is already investing in the defense of Ukraine. That's my position.
That's what I think.
Does the city of Dnipro have its own flag?
That's a good question, Councilman.
Because we could fly that flag. What's your thinking on that, Dr. Sauer?
Well, I mean, so if we're going to be a sister city with Dnipro, then what if we flew instead of flying the Ukrainian flag?
Or even both of them.
Yeah. What about flying the city of Dnipro's flag?
Yeah.
That really if you really want to raise questions about why the flag's up, that would make things even, I would think, significantly more interesting.
Ooh.
Because they're going to want to go, well, what the heck is that? Oh, that's our sister city, Dnipro, Ukraine.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Councilmember Sauer.
I've thought about that, and I don't know if they have a city flag or not.
They have an emblem.
It's.
They do have a city flag. Is that
I think
considered?
that's it. Is that it, Stephanie?
I believe so. We'd have to confirm, but.
According to Google or Wikipedia?
Is that a flag? Is that what that is?
Yes, sir. According to Wikipedia.
Okay.
I think that's the source, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good for some stuff.
If we did that, Mr. City Manager, what does flag etiquette say about that?
It would fly lower than the state flag and than the U.S. flag.
Okay.
And that would be good.
And we could fly it on one of our other poles and leave the city flag up as well.
I like that.
I want to make sure that Jerry fact checks what I just said. I have had to get pretty smart on flag etiquette over my career because people will really call you on misflying flags.
Yeah, they will.
What did you say about
A city flag of any city or country is going to fly lower than the state flag and the federal flag.
Would that be in place of our city flag?
Wouldn't have to be.
Could be.
So it could fly under our city flag? Is that what you mean?
I would probably fly the city flag and their city flag at the same elevation. I don't know how we would work that out, but that's from an etiquette standpoint how that would probably need to go. I'm getting nods from my flag experts.
So can I ask a question, sir? Go ahead.
I don't have any problem with Dr. Sauer's idea, but I thought the Ukraine flag would mean more. People would recognize that more.
Oh, I think it would have a much greater meaning. How is our communication going since we're having this conversation? Has the mayor or Anton reached out to any of us? Have we had a single conversation with anybody from our sister city? And should we have these conversations prior to offering something like this, since we don't know their flag etiquette, perhaps?
Yes, we have had conversations with Dnipro since we approved our sister city agreement, and we have had conversations with the local group that wants to form the Citizens Committee to do the work with NEPRO. So that's a yes and a yes to both of those questions. As to whether or not we've discussed this flag issue with them, no, it's just come as something that Councilmember Smith wanted to discuss, and that's why it's on the agenda today. So, I think another way of approaching it might be, if we pass this resolution, would we forward that to NEPRO and say, hey, are you interested in flying our flag? Would be happy to send you an Amarillo flag or a U.S. flag to also fly in as a solidarity exchange. But I think we're in a stronger position. They're the ones who are at war. We're in a position to show solidarity differently than they are. But those are just my thoughts.
Can I ask one other question? And I won't say last. I should never say that. So are we inviting the opportunity to show solidarity around the world, like with maybe Israel? Are we inviting the opportunity? I mean, Israel's been at war forever. And so as we are sister nations, should we fly the Israeli flag? Should we pick a day? Do we have other friends, neighbors, maybe south of us here that work in our communities? Are we inviting the opportunity to fly the Mexican flag? Or maybe our sister city in Mexico, if it still is a formalized relationship? Do we want to at least look down the road a little ways as to what else may come up from this? Can we have that conversation briefly?
So, Councilmember Stanley, do we have agreements in place with all these other cities that you're talking about?
Yes, I believe we had one. Now, unless it expired, I never found anything for our Mexico sister city that went away. We planted a tree, and there's still a plaque there today, ma'am.
The agreement is expired with our sister city from Mexico.
Okay.
I think in what you're addressing, whether we would want to have another sister city, that'd be another question. We were asked by NEPRO to have a sister city with them, and if someone from some city in Israel asked us, we would consider doing it, or we wouldn't do it.
And truly, we were asked by a group of Amarillo citizens to do a sister city agreement with NEPRO, and those citizens have a special relationship with that city. So that's where that came from. If we were to have a group of citizens who wanted to do a sister city agreement with a city in Israel, I think the council would consider that.
Would consider that.
But while a group of citizens here brought it on, but you did get a letter, because I got a copy of it from the mayor of NEPRO. And so the official request came from there.
Mr. Smith, do you want to make a motion? See if it
Yes,
gets seconded?
I do. I move to adopt resolution number 01-10-23-3, authorizing the display of artifacts and national symbols of Ukraine at city facilities, this to be done on an average of 1 day per week.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Sauer. Do we want to have any more questions or discussion on it, Mr. Stanley?
Yes, Mayor. My question is, what does that mean, Councilman Smith?
Well, it says we could display artifacts and national symbols.
Would we care to define that and maybe exclude certain items in this resolution? Do we want to leave it that open-ended and just move forward?
Well, I think that's broader than my initial thought was a flag, but this is okay because there's other symbols.
So if the Ukrainian flag flies next to the American flag in front of City Hall, you don't have a problem with that?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the council, other things to discuss?
No.
Okay.
I call for the question.
All of those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign?
No.
Okay, thank you. That passes. I'm sorry, we're not recognizing public comment at this time. Item 3G, resolution number 0110233 passes with a 4-1 vote. Moving on to item 3H, which is considering the award for professional services and the development of construction documents for the 9th Street Trail Parking Lot project. Mr. City Manager.
All right, Mayor. So we've got Michael Kashuba here to give us a brief presentation, answer any questions council might have. Michael, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Michael Kashuba, Director of Parks and Rec. The item before you today is a professional services agreement for the construction documents at the 9th Street Trail. Just wanted to provide a little bit of background and some of the things that we've been working on associated with this. So the 9th Street Trail sits at the intersection of Wallace and 9th Street, just north of Meddy Park. It was a city-owned property that sat mainly unused and vacant. Six Pack Outdoors approached the city and asked to construct some mountain bike trails in that area. And one of the things we saw fairly quickly was there were some issues with access. The individuals that were using the space were either hopping the curb along 9th Street and parking on the sidewalk, or they were parking on private property. So we've been working with Texas Parks and Wildlife. We submitted a grant. We're actually awarded that grant. And so in the meantime, we've been working on our archaeological study. We actually have our antiquities permit, so we're able to proceed. The next step would be obviously the design, which is what's before you today. And then once we get the design, it would go out for a construction bid. I just wanted to highlight a little bit of the work that's been going on behind the scenes. We really haven't had a chance to recognize Chris Podzemany and Six Pack Outdoors for all the work that they've done. So I just wanted to touch on some of the things that they've been doing. So if you look up in the top left, that's just a picture of 9th Street Trails, kind of looking back to the south towards 9th Street. The parking lot would be on the hill on the kind of the top left of that picture. But Six Pack Outdoors and Chris Podzemany go out there and do cleanups. You can see how much trash they pick up along those trails. And this is something that they do quite frequently. At 9th Street Trails, we have approximately 5 miles of trail that have been built out there. And for all of these maps, they are available on Six Pack Outdoors' Facebook page. There are some plans to make some additional improvements to that area as well in the future. So for the parking lot itself, this would be a professional services agreement in the amount of $56,600. It would cover our surveying services, engineering, and then obviously the construction phase services as well. A couple of other things just to highlight briefly. Rick Klein Trails. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to go out there. Again, Six Pack has gone out there and installed about 15 miles of trail. The picture on the right side is closer to the ballpark. Looking to the east. One of the projects that they've been working on here recently is, they're calling it the schoolyard. It's actually the old Tornado Alley BMX track. And so their group has been out there making improvements. And so you can see some pictures of the condition that it was in. Again, this was an area that was used for BMX, but had sat vacant for quite a few years. So these were the before pictures, and then these are some of the after pictures. They're still working on it. But you can see the drastic improvement. The biggest difference between Tornado Alley is it was a lease agreement with an individual user, and it was a fenced area. What Six Pack Outdoors has created these trails and modified this to a pump track where the general public can go actually use this space. It's got access for all mountain bikers. John Stiff Trails, we have another 6.5 miles that were installed out at John Stiff. In the undeveloped areas, you'll come across these bridges and crossings. Those were things that were all put in by Six Pack Outdoors in order to cross those little drainage swales through there. What I'd like to do, if Stephanie can do this really quickly, we've got a video. They've been doing some bike races here recently, and I just wanted to showcase one of their recent races. It doesn't actually look like it's in the city of Amarillo, so I thought it'd be kind of nice to show what Chris and his team have done. actually had the opportunity to take my son and a friend out there a couple of weekends ago over the holidays, and they had an absolute blast. We've got the item before you to consider the professional services agreement, but really what I wanted to do at the same time was thank Chris Podzemany and Six Pack Outdoors. They've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes that has really gone a little bit unnoticed. And so just wanted to take a little bit of time to say thank you to Chris and Six Pack. Chris is here today. So I just wanted to give him a little bit of thanks. And obviously we've got the item to consider for the parking lot at 9th Street. So be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Michael? Chris, you have anything you want to say? You want to add to it? We love that vision. Now, you know you have a dedicated cyclist on council. Mr. Smith?
I want to add to thanking him. He does stuff not only in the city, Paladure Canyon, trails out there, other towns in the Panhandle. You could name them. I can't name them, but like. Thank you.
Chris, we appreciate you. Okay, any other questions for Michael then? Michael, thank you. Do we have a motion with regard to this parking lot item?
Yes, Mayor, I move to award an agreement for professional services for the development of construction documents for the 9th Street Trails parking lot project to Geospatial Data Incorporated for $56,600.
Second.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Council Member Smith to approve item H. Mr. Smith, do you have a comment with regard to the motion?
I want to ask you a question. What this archaeological study's been done? If they find a burial ground for Indians, what's going to happen? Is that call a halt to everything, or what?
So we've actually completed the archaeological study. It was a requirement as a part of this grant because there was a site in a similar location just a couple miles north of this. So we actually did an archaeological study. Dr. Cates conducted that, and we did not find any evidence. So that's why we've been given the green light to move ahead with the actual design and construction.
So if something was found, it would call a halt to it?
If something was found at the site of the parking lot, yes, it would pause that until they had fully evaluated the site for historical significance, and if it was clear, then they could go forward. It would probably kill the site, though.
So what they've done is they actually walked it with a group of volunteers. They walked in a line to make sure that that area was clear. They actually did some samples where they have to dig down to basically bedrock to look for samples as well, and they didn't find anything in any of the locations.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all going to be paid for, not with taxpayer dollars, but with a grant. Is that correct?
Yeah, the total project is an 80-20 grant match from the Texas Parks and Wildlife, so the city would be responsible for 20%, which would come out of our Parks E&I.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Any other questions, comments, discussion?
Have a motion and a second.
A motion and a second, yes. Mm-hmm. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That passes with the 5-0 vote. Moving to item 3I, which is the consideration of an award for professional services. Mr. City Manager.
All right, Mayor, we've got Kyle Sneederjohn, Director of Capital Projects, Development Engineering, to present the item. What I'd like to do is have Kyle go ahead and present items I and J. Item I is the professional services for the work that would be performed in item J, and also some of the design work for that. So they are connected. They're very closely connected. So Kyle, if you're okay with it, he could present these two items together. Y'all could ask questions together, and then you would consider them separately. Kyle, take it away.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to do a short introduction for Jackson. Jackson has been the project manager for the Western Street and the Wallace-Hagee Port project and is uniquely apt to go through these items. He's got a presentation for you. So here's Jackson Zahara.
Good afternoon, Council, Mayor. So what I'd planned to do was give a presentation on the progress of the reconstruction of Western Street, Wallace Boulevard, Hagee Boulevard, Port Lane, and then just a discussion of the two agenda items. First of all, just a quick background of the project. Back in April of 2020, we hired a professional services contract, Kimley Horn Associates, to do the design of this project. Council awarded the construction contract to J. Lee Milligan in August of 2021, funded by Proposition 1 bond funds. Construction started in November of 2021 to include the full depth replacement of the pavement section. Along Wallace, Hagee, and Port, the project limits there are from Research Boulevard along the Wallace corridor to Hagee and Port Lane to Wolflin Avenue. They're currently working on Port Lane right now with that final paving surface to remain. Right now, that final paving surface is just below the gutter. And so the final work you'll see out there is that final paving surface, anticipated to happen this spring, weather dependent. A couple pictures there of the construction along Wallace, Hagee, and Port. A new sidewalk there, and also the new asphalt paving. Western Street, this is along Western Street from Southwest 34th Avenue to 49th Avenue. Work currently going on between Southwest 34th and Ridgecrest Circle, and the concrete paving work there anticipated to be complete this summer. There you'll just see a couple pictures of some new concrete pavement in the upper left, and then some finished new concrete pavement there on the right. The next thing I wanted to address is along Terrace Drive, adjacent to the Western Street project. There's a storm drain that's in poor condition and has actually collapsed and damaged the road. What this map is trying to show is just the proximity to the Western Street project. So this collapsed storm drain is along Terrace Drive between Cougar and Mays. And here you can kind of see the condition of what this collapsed storm drain has caused to the road. This lane of Terrace Drive is closed off to traffic, but it's something that needs to be repaired. That kind of brings me to the presentation on one of the agenda items, which is consideration of a change order to J. Lee Milligan's contract. Part of that change order would be to repair and replace that collapsed storm drain in the amount of nearly $1.8 million, funded from drainage utility E&I funds. The other portion of that change order, proposed change order, should you approve it, would be an additional $322,000 related to the work already on the Western Wallace, Hagee, and Port corridors. Driveways, curbs, medians that we didn't anticipate in the original design. Also, the contractor's been very good to work with us through some traffic control issues we've had, making that work a little more smoothly. That would be proposed to be funded, once again, from the Proposition 1 transportation bond funds. for a total of nearly $2.1 million. The other agenda item to consider is the construction phase services agreement with Kimley Horn and Associates, who is our current professional services provider. And this would basically just extend their contract to the end of construction. When we originally hired them, we were conservative on our estimate for our time for construction, and due to their expertise, we would just like to keep them on board till we can end construction. And I just want to clear that this does not extend the contractor's schedule for completion of Western. That is still scheduled to be complete this summer as originally. It's just to extend the professional services to that. That's really all I had on that. If you have
Any questions for
on either of those
Jackson?
items.
Thank you, Jackson. Okay, let's go up to item 3I, which is the Kimley Horn contract extension. Do we have a motion with regard to that item?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I move to award a professional services agreement for added design and construction phase services for the replacement of a collapsing storm sewer and Terrace Drive, and additional construction phase services for the reconstruction of the Western and Wallace Boulevard, Hagee Boulevard, and Port Lane corridors in Amarillo to Kimberly Horn and Associates Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $604,900.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman Sauer to approve item 3I. Any questions or discussion on that motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. That passes with a 5-0 vote. Item 3J, do we have a motion?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I move to approve change order number 2 for the construction contract for the reconstruction of Western Street, Wallace Boulevard, Hagee Boulevard, and Port Lane projects to address additional construction items on Western Street, Wallace Boulevard, Hagee Boulevard, and Port Lane to construct storm sewer repairs and Terrace Drive from Cougar Drive to Mays Avenue to J. Lee Milligan Incorporated in the amount of $2,094,161.21.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Council Member Smith to approve item 3J. Any questions or discussion on that motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. That passes with the 5-0 vote. And that brings us to the end of our non-executive session agenda. And so at this time, I would ask the city attorney to read our dismissal language.
Yes, ma'am. Pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, a closed session of the Amarillo City Council was announced on January the 10th, 2023 at 2:52 p.m. under the following authority, Section 551.072, discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, sale, or value of real property. A public discussion of such would not be in the best interest of the city's bargaining position. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we are dismissed to executive session.